Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rebecca Buckmiller with CDSS Integrated Services Unit. We have some people still joining, so I'm going to put everyone on hold for just a minute or two longer, and then we'll get started. Hey, good afternoon again, everyone. This is Rebecca Buckmiller with California Department of Social Services, Integrated Services Unit. Thank you for joining us today for our CANS biweekly technical assistance call. We can start with introductions with here in the room. And I'm Rebecca Buckmiller. Also with the Integrated Services Unit. Good afternoon. This is Janine LaFleur, also with the Integrated Services Unit.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Lisa Richardson, Workforce Development, Training, and Support Bureau.
And good afternoon. My name is Jeffrey Koff. I'm with the Integrated Services Unit.
Okay, thank you. Today for updates, we just have a couple of things to remind folks about is the publishing of our CFT and CANS web pages, both on the CDSS website. I invite you to take a look at those for the most current information on CANS and CFTs in the ways of letters, guidance, and our CFT survey is also accessible on the website. We'll be sending out a link again to all participants through our chat feature. And please feel free to take a look at that and also provide feedback and contact us if you have any information that you'd like to share or see on those pages. Today we are going to start with some FAQ questions that came in during our last call that we would like to share with a larger audience so that everyone hears the technical assistance questions that we're receiving that apply to most folks. So we're going to rotate within the room here and each take a question and answer. Do you want to? Sure. The first question is, does a CANS certified completer need additional training for other CANS versions?
Did you want me to answer that?
Yes, please. Sorry.
Yeah.
April Fernandez joining us.
Hi, everyone. This is April. Do you need to be trained on other CANS versions? So as per usual, the first level of the answer is it depends. So as far as the Parade Foundation is concerned, when you certify on the CANS or any other TCOM tool like the ANSA, the adult version, or the 0 to 5 version, you're certified on the CANS. So you can use any of the other tools. There is an exception to that, and that is the crisis version of the tool and the family advocacy support tool. They have different rating scales, and so it's important that you get certified on the CANS if you're only certified on the FAST crisis version of the tool, which is called the CAT. Now, depending on what county you are in, some counties have their own version of the CANS, and so they may stipulate a stricter guideline by saying that, you know, you have to be certified on the county version of the tool, and that we leave up to every county to determine. But as far as the Parade Foundation is concerned, if you're certified on the CANS, you can use any version of the CANS or the Adult Needs and Strengths Assessment. Are there any follow-up questions to that?
Yeah, if you have follow-up questions and you're on mute, please feel free to use our chat feature to send questions in, and we can try to get to those today. If not, we will circle back during our next call or answer them independently. Thank you, April. Our second question, can I do my CANS training online? Leslie, I think we'll, oh, Jeff is going to take the lead.
Hi, everybody. So the question is, can I do my CANS training online? The short answer to that is no. CDSS is contracted the Parade Foundation to provide training regarding the CANS to the RTAs, and trainings will be given through the RTAs for CANS and to get CANS certified. It may be a little confusing because when you visit the Parade Foundation website, it does say CANS training online. However, that online is a supplement for in-person training for child welfare. But CDSS is requiring in-person training. However, behavioral health training is determined county by county. So it is recommended that those who are interested on the mental health side who want to be CANS certified to talk with their MHPs to determine how they will be trained.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. April, do you have anything to add to that?
No, he was very thorough.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, question 3. Which CFT members will provide ratings for the CANS? Me?
Okay. Well, the CANS completer will score the CANS with the information that they gather from the youth, the family, system partners, and various team members. The completer will discuss the ratings with the team during the CFT meeting, especially those of concern, and they're going to work to create a consensus. Now, some portions of the CANS may also be completed with the family outside of the CFT meeting due to the sensitive nature of some of the items rated. But if a consensus is not reached, then the completer will defer to the youth and family voice while ensuring that the safety needs are addressed.
Okay, great, thank you. April? Anything to add to that?
I think Janine did an excellent job. I would just like to point out that this then means that the child, the youth, the family, as well as other CFT members do need to have some sort of orientation / overview to what the CANS is so that they understand how to participate in that process and what the action levels are, etc.
Okay, yeah, great point. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, question 4. Who will do the CANS, the placement agency or the STRTP? Leslie?
So the all-county letter 1881 addresses the issue of who shall administer the CANS for child welfare agencies. The individual who is responsible for completing the CANS assessment tool must be trained and actively CANS certified. While the placing agency is responsible for ensuring the completion of the CANS, ideally the child and family team is responsible to ensure a consensus as to the CANS score. Counties may choose different ways to administer the CANS within the CFT based on local needs and practice. Therefore, pertaining to this particular question, it's critical that conversations between the placing agency and the short-term residential therapeutic program representative take place in order to establish roles as well as processes in regards to the administration. Additionally, ACL 1881 also outlines 3 options that may be employed to so for them to consider. It's in the
Okay.
ACL.
And you can find the ACLs on our web pages. For those, so the link that will be sent out today. So feel free to take a look at those for more information. Last question. Where can I find other items to add to the CAN?
So the Parade Foundation does have other items that could be added to the CAN. It's probably best if you reach out to myself to start a conversation so that I can narrow down those items to give you, so that you can look through the items and not get overwhelmed by the number of items that are available. So just reach out. We have some that are already sort of grouped together, like we have an STRTP or a residential treatment group of items. We have items that are grouped together around SOGI, things like that. So just reach out to me and I'm happy to send you items that you're interested in looking at.
Okay, great. Thank you, April. Okay, so moving on
this is Kim Suderman. I wanted to,
hi, Kim.
from CBHDA, hey, I wanted to go back to the question in relation to who will do the CANs, the placing agency or the STRTP. I just want to add, though, it's a person probably asking in relation to child welfare probation for the mental health plans and their requirement of the CANs. In that situation, the mental health plan would also need to be consulted because they are also responsible to ensure the CANs is conducted. And again, with the STRTP, the mental health plan would be providing the contract for the STRTP mental health folks to conduct services as well. So mental health needs to be looped into that discussion as well.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Excellent point. Of course, we do know a significant number of our kids will be receiving the CANs through their mental health plan providers, and the coordination of that information is really going to be essential. Okay. So we're a little ahead of the agenda right now, which is good. It might give us a little more time. We are excited to have 2 different counties participating today on our call, sharing their experience on how they are approaching planning for CAN's implementation within the CFT process. We have Sacramento County. We have Sarah Duncan and Matt Quinley in San Francisco. We have Liz Crudo. I think you're all unmuted as participants right now. So we want to get started. Maybe we can start with Sacramento County with Sarah and Matt sharing a little bit about their experience. And at the end of the presentations, we will be taking questions and unmute all for a question and answer time. Sarah, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and Matt? Are you unmuted?
Hi, sorry, this is Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, go ahead. There is someone who we have some background noise. Okay, we got it. Okay, great. Go ahead, Sarah. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, okay, thanks. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity to share, and we're early in the process, as I think everyone is. But in Sacramento County, we started our CFT facilitation process through a contracted provider. So for kids who aren't having ICC CFTs via their mental health provider, we have a provider, Uplift Family Services, who has CFT facilitators that are facilitating our meetings. And the format we are following in those meetings is a safety organized practice model, because we are SOP County. So we do a 3 columns mapping in the meeting with brainstorming what's working, what the worries are, and next steps, and then results in an action plan with consensus with the team. So to integrate CANs into that, we have also kind of outsourced our CANs completion via behavioral health clinicians that are funded under child welfare dollars to complete the CANs for children who also aren't getting CANs done by their mental health provider. And that, of course, includes all kids 0 to 5, because the CANS Core 50 is only 6 and above. So the plan, the idea, what we kind of have started is that these mental health clinicians who were previously certified in the CANS Core 50 through behavioral health, they've been trained in the California IP CANS. We actually had our first CANS overview training yesterday with Northern California RTA, and we had all our facilitators in the training as well as all of our clinicians that will be doing the CANS. And so what they're doing now with the training and certification is they're practicing and testing on real cases. So they're kind of identifying cases that are having CFT meetings. They're case mining and reviewing and hopefully shadowing with social workers to go out in the field to see what's going on with the family, and then kind of conducting a CANS to practice. We aren't yet kind of sharing that CANS in the CFT because we're starting to practice that, how to integrate it in. One of our concerns is integrating the CANS into the CFT meeting in a way that's not redundant to our SOP mapping. So we feel like it fits really well because strengths are what's working and worries will equate to needs, but we want to plan that out more thoughtfully before we start testing with live families. So that's kind of where we're at. Matt, do you want to add anything about your clinician team and what their experience has been?
I think.
He's in, he's not on.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Matt, can you? Yes,
yeah.
We can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think Sarah touched on the process. I think for our clinicians, we have a dedicated team of 5 clinicians that we felt very involved in the process and the planning from the beginning. And as Sarah said, they're participating in a lot of trainings. We're doing a lot of internal work just in terms of CANS vignettes. All these staff are previously trained in CANS, are familiar with implementing it in our mental health plan or behavioral health services, but they're doing some practice with vignettes from actual cases, actual child welfare CFTs, sitting in on the planning meetings, and just getting ready to participate in mock CFTs with, Uplift, the facilitator, and child welfare. There's been some good opportunities to participate in trainings with child welfare and to kind of do some meet and greet with CPS, child welfare staff. We've learned a lot about their structure, about their teams, and kind of at this point in the last couple of weeks been trying to make connections so that our clinicians can reach out to social workers and gather information as part of their assessment and their CANS process. So I think it's been a positive experience so far, and again, we're excited to get started in the next couple months.
I wanted to add one more thing, this is Sarah again, about another kind of thing we're trying to work on is we're trying to align with behavioral health to coordinate efforts so that all CFTs and CANS practices throughout our county, whether it's child welfare doing the CANS and CFT, or if it's a mental health provider, that consistent practices. So we're kind of coming together at a leadership level to start that conversation and hopefully getting some of our STRTP providers into our CFT and CANS trainings as well, because that'll help kind of bridge the gap of differences there. So that's about all I think we're ready to share, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Do you have any input, or do you want to share a little bit about the automated tool portion of CANS? What's your experience been with that so far?
We have access to the automated tool. We're reviewing it because we're not yet doing live CANS on actual cases. We haven't entered the data yet, so we haven't really started practicing with that piece yet.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks for sharing. I really like. Oh, I do have a quick question. As far as for the mental health plan clinicians with doing the cans, is the plan for them to be in the field doing them in the home environment, or are the youth coming in for as an appointment?
I think we're open to whatever the need is, but we have, and Sarah can add more. We have our facilitator has sites in the community where we would expect to do a lot of the assessments or the CFTs, but we're kind of working out that workflow in terms of gathering information, and our clinicians gathering information up front.
Yeah, right. We'll hopefully our social work, it's kind of a different model because a person that's not connected to case is actually reviewing the information, compiling it for the CAN. So it might be different, and so we're trying to reduce redundancies around that. So in a way, they can get a lot of information from reports and case mining. They can get a lot of information by going out with the social worker and then kind of finalizing it in the CFT meeting. Right. So we just kind of have a general idea of how that'll work.
Right. Okay. All right. Sounds like a great plan. I like the idea of them going out together. Okay. Do we have any questions? We're looking through our online chat system now to see if we have any questions for Sacramento County, but I think in the meantime, April, is there anything that you want to add?
No, I think it's a great, you guys are starting off really well, and I love the approach and how collaborative it is. I'll be interested to hear updates.
Okay, great. Thank you, April. Okay, next, do we have a couple of questions?
Yeah.
Okay, first question.
I'll try to speak clearly. Have you developed some consistent methods of orientation for the family at the CFT regarding CAN? This is for Sacramento.
Can you repeat that, because there's an echo and it's hard for me to hear it?
So the question is asking if you've developed consistent messaging for the family. So I think the getting at how are you orienting the family to what the CAN is within the CFT process. Do you have any sort of messaging or document or tool that you're planning to use with families?
No, but that's definitely something that we talked about yesterday with our facilitators in training, is that we feel like the facilitators are going to be the kind of, and the social workers, of course, like that first messaging to families to introduce them to what the CANS is and get people familiar with that. So we don't have anything developed, but we definitely see that as a need, and that's what we need to that's one of our next steps before we can start testing with live families, because of course we need a concrete way for them to understand. So, and I know April and John in trainings before have given examples of kind of a CANS introduction speech and a way to get families involved, and so I'm hoping to use some of those resources that I've learned from them.
Okay, great. Do we have another question?
I collaborate on Janine from CDSS, and I just wanted everyone to know that we're in the process of developing a CANS information sheet that is going to be posted onto our website soon, and it will be a one-pager to provide information around the CANS for families and for youth, two separate versions, to provide just a better understanding of what the CANS is, what their role is within the CANS, and just how to kind of navigate the system. So we feel it's going to be very helpful, and we hope to have it on the website soon.
And this is Lisa, just to add that we do have a CFT implementation team that's focused on we have a subgroup that's focused on workforce development, and so we'll share the draft of those documents that Janine just referenced with that implementation team to get some further feedback, and would love to share that with Sacramento and San Francisco to get your reactions to that as well.
Yes, great. Thank you. Do we have another question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So another question for Sacramento is, do the clinicians do assessments as they do the CANs?
So I'm assuming that means that you're doing the full mental health assessment in conjunction with the CANs. Is it?
Right now, the plan is just to do the CANs and to do the face-to-face, gather the information, but not to do complete what we call a core assessment that our mental health plan does. They'll be compiling a assessment note, but I think we're still kind of developing that.
Okay. Okay. One more question. Okay.
Okay, this is for Sacramento. Is the behavioral health person involved ongoing in treatment or completes the CANs and then is done with the case?
Go ahead, sir.
Well, I was just going to clarify. I'm sure you'd have the same answer, Matt. Is that for these 5 clinicians that are kind of subcontracted for the CPS CANs, they are independently, they're not attached to the case and they're not involved in their ongoing treatment. But at the same time, for kids that do have those mental health providers, because we're doing One Child, One CANs, we're sharing that CANs, and that provider is going to be involved on an ongoing basis. So I just wanted to clarify the difference. But for these kind of the kids that aren't linked, that don't have a CANs being done already, these clinicians are not going to be involved in their treatment.
Okay, great. So that sounds like a great implementation of the integrated core practice model. All right. We have time for one more. Yeah, we're a little ahead of schedule, so don't mind.
So the other question for Sacramento, are the behavioral health clinicians full-time?
Yes, with 5
okay.
full-time.
There's 5 full-time. Okay. And how many foster youth in your system?
We have approximately, it fluctuates, probably about 2,100 kids in care, 1,900 to 2,100, depending, in out-of-home care.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. All right, I think that's good. If we have any more questions for Sacramento, feel free to send them in through the chat feature, and I think we can move on. Liz, are you on the line from San Francisco?
Yes, I'm on the line. Hi, everyone.
Okay, great. I'll let you take it from there.
Okay, and I'm Liz Crudo. I'm a program manager in San Francisco Child Welfare, and Richie Rubio, who's with our mental health department, is also on the line. So he can chime in, Richie, to add information as you need to. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our model, but first I want to give you some history, brief history with the development of it. We're a county that many years ago did family to family. We had team decision-making meetings. We started implementing meetings to discuss the CANs in response to the KDA legislation. Our mental health department is our managed care provider and has been for probably close to 25 years now. So we have county clinicians that are conducting the CANs, and they also have a network of provider agencies like A Better Way and Alternative Family Services and Seneca, agencies like that, whose staff also conduct the CANs. So all of this we've been working on for quite a while to develop our model, and it's one of those things that's constantly a work in progress. But we've had a lot of interagency work group meetings with both child welfare and mental health county staff and with our partner agencies. Those planning meetings continue to improve our model and the relationships and support and training that goes into making all of this work. So I just wanted people to have this context, because it does take a long time, and we've come a long way, but it's something that we still have room for improvement. So again, our county and mental health providers conduct the CANs for children in our system, and we have about probably 600 or so kids in foster care right now. And when we developed our child and family team model to address behavioral health, again, as a response to the KDA legislation. So to do that, we did a Plan, Do, Study, Act, a PDSA model, where, again, it was an interagency partnership with county and provider staff, and we would test out ideas and see how they worked, and come back and discuss how things played out on specific cases, in talking about behavioral health issues with the family in these facilitated meetings. And so we ended up with a model that is facilitated by our child welfare facilitators. Those are line level child welfare workers who are specifically trained in facilitation. And this is happening early on in the life of a case. So ideally it's happening before disposition, so that we can take whatever information comes out of that meeting and incorporate it into our court documents and case planning for families. And we found that, we really wanted to be thoughtful about who was in the room with the parent. And at that stage of the game, when they're just coming into the child welfare system, often when their children have been removed, they're really in a state of crisis, we didn't want to have a whole bunch of people in the room. It was really overwhelming. Parents were really going through a lot of trauma and distress. And we really wanted to take the opportunity to build a good, constructive relationship with them, focusing on how we can help them, help their children, and get their expertise on what their child's needs were and how we can best meet those needs. So we ended up with a structure where it was a small group that was in the room, which would be the parent, the clinician who conducted the CANS assessment or the CANS screening, the child welfare worker, and if we can, we have some peer parents through either our mental health system or through a Better Way, and a designated peer parent could be in the room to support the parent and help them navigate our system and interpret any information that came out in the meeting. So if the CANs had been completed before the CFT meeting, the results were shared in the meeting, If it hasn't been done prior to that time, because there's lots of reasons why maybe it hasn't been done. The clinician has trouble connecting with the parent. Sometimes, the consents and releases can get complicated and take a little while to put in place. So for whatever reason, if the CANs hadn't been done, we have taken the time to use that as an engagement opportunity and educate the parent on the CANs and get information from them about their child, and then complete the CANs at that point and review it with the parent. So this is typically, it would be our court dependency worker that we're trying to have in the meetings. And we also developed through this PDSA interagency process that I talked about, a document called the Shared Family Care Plan. So whenever we do a facilitated meeting that's facilitated by the child welfare staff, we complete this document, which is basically a list of who's going to do what in the meeting, documents the discussion, and everyone who's participating in the meeting can walk away with a clear list of action steps that's going to happen. And it does, like Sacramento was talking about their SOP framework, we also utilize an SOP framework in these meetings, and the Shared Family Care Plan reflects that with documenting what the worries are, what the strengths are, and what the next steps are for the case. So that's our model in a nutshell. The other thing that I think I want to add is we have developed lots of training around this, Cft Facilitation Training, that our partner agencies, our mental health partner agencies, have also attended, so they can, when they are talking about mental health issues with their clients and the meetings they facilitate, it parallels our facilitated meetings. So there's some consistency across our county and across our integrated system. And we are revisiting, actually at this time we're revisiting with our partners, just kind of what our process is, what our engagement with the team, both the professionals and with the parents, and developing some specific training supports. So it's clear about what the role of the clinician is who's coming into the room. Because as we've gotten further down the road, there are more providers who are conducting the CAN. So there's an expansion of the clinicians available. And we want to make sure that all those people have the information they need to know what to expect when they walk into this meeting. I think I'll take a pause there and see if there's any questions or comments, or Richie, if you want to add anything.
Okay, we do have one question.
Okay. Oh, I see it here. Is this about the release of consents?
No,
Yeah.
no, not yet. This question is, if the info is gathered in the CFT meeting, is the CANS then done with the family in that meeting?
It's not completed in the meeting. I think they take that information and then continue to complete it outside of the meeting. And because they don't just want to talk to the clinicians, don't just talk to the parent, they talk to other folks who may not be. And again, we deliberately, when we built our model out, which precedes a lot of the recent CANS ACLs, again, we really try to be careful about who was in the room so as not to overwhelm the parent. But if the clinician needs to talk to the foster parent or the school staff, those folks are not going to be in the meeting. So if they need that information, then the CANS will be completed outside of the meeting. And then we could come back and go over the final assessment with the parent. So
great, thank you. I think,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Another question is San Francisco willing to share their model or plan do study act? Sorry.
Oh, we've got lots of stuff we'd be happy to share. So we might overwhelm you with it. That we actually have some training PowerPoints that we developed for what we call it the CFTBH meetings, Child and Family Team Meeting about Behavioral Health. And so there's lots of materials on that. The Plan, Do, Study, Act model, when we first did it, we worked with a facilitator and consultant, Jennifer Clancy, who some of you may know, and she really worked with us to implement. It's a pretty intense year that we spent developing this and implementing it when we did it initially, which was probably 5 or 6 years ago. Yeah.
Okay, great. Liz, if you don't mind just sending that.
I can send.
Liz, this is Rebecca from CDSS. If you don't mind sending what you're willing to share to our CWS coordination box, and then all those who are interested, please put so in the chat feature or send us an email, and we'll make sure that we can distribute that out to everyone at one time. Thank you. Okay, we have another question.
Okay. This is for San Francisco. Who is completing CANs for those not enrolled in specialty mental health services? Are the family participants giving filled out copy CANs in CFT?
That cut out a little bit. So are the families getting copies of the CANs? Is that what you're asking?
There's two questions. Let me repeat that again.
We have not given the families copies of the CANs, and in fact, what our workers have gotten through now is the CANS clinician does a summary of recommendations, does kind of a summary of the findings. And we have shared that, an example of that with some of the state folks. So they're not getting the actual scores. And we are working with our mental health department now. They actually conducted some focus groups with our staff about the CANs so that they're working with us, our workforce development team, to develop training for our staff around the cans. So they've gotten input from our staff to do that, and what will be helpful for them so they can orient them to the actual cans document, because that's not something our staff has gotten historically.
And just to add to that, this is Richie. Can people hear me?
Yes, Richie, go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just to add to that, in terms of like the training, yes, the intention is not really to bring the CANS assessment tool within the CFT meeting, but really to strengthen the collaboration so that child welfare workers can help inform the ratings in the CANS. And I think what we're planning down the line in terms of a training is to bring to a CFT meeting a sort of like a case planning worksheet, wherein in that worksheet, it is identified there like targeted items from the CANS that the case plan will work on in terms of actionable ratings from the CANS assessment. So it's not too overwhelming to provide the family with all the items in the CANS, but only the ones that will be targeted for the case plan.
And I also see there's a questions about consents and ROIs. So we have to get the consents, we have the process to get the consents, and we would send that over when we request from foster care mental health that the CANs be completed. The minor's attorney for kids who are out of home would coordinate getting the releases of information. And if we don't have that before the CFT meeting, then what the process has been is that the clinician can gather information from the participants in the room, but they can't share any findings until we have those releases. And we have a very kind of detailed flow chart about how that works that I'm also happy to share. It's a pretty complicated process, as I'm sure a lot of counties are dealing with also.
It is a pretty common question here on the CDSS, and so we appreciate you sharing that with us. We do have another question that came in about do the families have input to that approach as far as how the CANS is completed with the CFT and are in agreement with that?
So in agreement with how it's completed in the CFT?
I think it was related to the idea of the items that were to be worked on in the case plan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's part of the discussion.
Yeah.
That's part of the discussion. The clinician would share their findings or, whatever information they have at that point in time and gather input from the parent and who's ever in the meeting to determine if that's all if it's accurate, if there's other information that's needed, to kind of finalize their complete assessment and come up with any next steps.
This is Kim Suderman again, and I'm thinking that maybe you could reiterate what you said earlier. I think it was you that said earlier, just in relation to you're not kind of conducting the CANs during CFT. It's a gathering information to inform the CANs completion and then sharing the results later on during the CFT versus doing quote unquote the CANs. I think there's a little bit of a phrasing thing that may be a challenge.
Right, that's the way we've been doing it. Now, sometimes the CANs is done before the meeting and then you can discuss the findings. But often it hasn't been completed because we're trying to get the meeting to happen pretty early on in the life of the case. So things are moving pretty quick.
So just to be clear then, with the actual, or during a CFT meeting, are the participants and family only seeing the pertinent items, or are we sort of vetting through all of them to build consensus around what those pertinent items are, those actionable items?
I'm trying to think how I can say this. We haven't the way I understand how it's working is they are sharing kind of a more general discussion about the mental health and behavioral needs and concerns for the child, and not necessarily going through each score item. Because again, we've been doing this for a while now, preceding a lot of the more recent discussion at the state. So we have not moved into that. Here's, a specific score discussion. And that's what Richie was talking about with the training for our staff that's going to be needed to move into more detail about those particular items. Does that make sense? Richie, I don't know if you want to add.
Yeah, that makes sense. So currently right now, because I've attended a couple of CFT meetings just to shadow what is being done, and so far, the mental health worker who is the one certified with the CANS really provides an overview of the findings without really going into the details of the ratings for each of the CANS items. But of course, with this current mandate, we are trying to strengthen the collaboration and find a way by which we can bring the CANs in a CFT meeting, but in a way that it's not too overwhelming for the family or for the social, for the child welfare workers as well to deal with or to look at every single item in the CANs, but more like looking at targeted items. And of course, probably giving some coaching as well with the family, what the CANs is, what it does, probably a brief introduction around how it was rated, but really just focusing on the items that would inform the case plan.
And then can I just add that then it sounds like you are using the CFT members to inform the CANs and then later sharing the results of the CANs, but it's not a item one, rate it this way, does everybody agree? You're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that. That's right. That's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys being willing to answer the follow-up questions. I want to acknowledge that Sacramento and San Francisco, you guys are brave souls in going first and sharing out your approach to planning for implementation. It's this is emerging practice, and so obviously we're going to have some fine tuning as we go along, but really want to appreciate your willingness to share out and entertain questions from others who are participating on this call today.
Okay, do we have any questions?
You have one more question.
One question for San Francisco.
Do you have an MOU with your MHP to coordinate the role in implementing the CANs into the CFT?
I don't think we have an MOU. Do you know of one, Richie? We have MOUs with mental health, but no, but we actually work order funds over to their department to support the staffing for both the public county staff as well as the provider contracts that they have.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not aware of an MOU as well.
Yeah, and again, there's tons of meetings, both just the county staff and then county and provider staff on various levels of this for implementation. We have a monthly meeting with child welfare, juvenile probation, and mental health on various aspects of CCR implementation, and we talk a lot about this kind of issue specifically around the CANs and CFT implementation. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay. So, all right, we have a few more questions. Are these specific counties? Okay, so we'll move into a general technical assistance to question and answer phase now. Thank you again to our presenters, San Francisco and Sacramento counties, for participation. Just so everyone knows, they did it on short notice today, and we were quite pleased to have it because it's obviously, as Lisa said, it's an emerging practice, and I've personally learned some really great tips that we can share with other counties through our technical assistance. So thank you again.
A question came in today and is asking if the state is going to be providing copies of the cans in Spanish, Vietnamese, and other language thresholds.
And yes, we are working on translation of the CANS rating sheets. And I know actually April, I think, is doing some work around that. April, do you have any updates to share?
Yes, we're pretty near done with the rating sheet translation for Spanish. And then we'll move on to the other threshold languages in California after that.
Okay, fantastic. Okay.
Do you require training on the CANs for children and youth and separate training on adult version of the CANs 0 through 5 CANs?
Okay. I think maybe we have earlier on. April, do you want to take that? I think that kind of goes back to the earlier question we had today about separate training for the different versions in the 0 to 5. Maybe we could just recap that.
Yeah, it's not necessary to get different training on the different versions. Once you're certified, you can use them all. However, some folks actually do want to get more information on specific early childhood items, and maybe if they're using a transition age youth version, what those items are all about. So there are ways to get some support through the training website, and so if you have specific questions about that, feel free to email me and I can point you in the right direction, because you can get into other courses and watch videos about the items, etc., if you're interested.
Great, thank you.
Okay, cool. This question is intended for Sarah and Liz from Sacramento and San Francisco. How are Sacramento and San Francisco tracking the CAN's due date to stay in compliance?
Because we contract with mental health to do that, the clinicians, the treating clinicians would track that. And actually, the mental health department has been working just in the last few months very closely with those clinicians to review their process and update it so that that's happening consistently.
This is Sarah in Sacramento. We've built a database in through ETO for CFT data, and some of our data elements in ETO include if a CANS was completed and then the date when the next CFT is due, so that we can have a tickler of kind of upcoming due dates, and we'll get more robust as we do more meetings and get those on the books. So that's kind of our first attempt at tracking the due dates.
I'll add to this is San Francisco again. We're working with our mental health department, just looking at kind of high-level aggregate data sharing across our systems and trying to put some things in place that potentially could help us flag cases needing reassessments as well, among other things.
Okay, great, thank you. Any further questions? Yeah. Is everyone unmuted? Can we move forward with unmuting everyone? So, okay, we're going to move forward with unmuting everyone. We do please ask people do not put us on hold, and please mute your phones unless you have a question that you can ask. And also, as some feedback that we received after the last call, if your question is for behavioral health, or you're a behavioral health provider or child welfare provider, please let us know that when you ask the question so we can direct the response appropriately. Thank you. Is everyone unmuted? Okay, it looks like everyone's unmuted. So again, instead of going by regions, please feel free to go ahead and ask. Is there anyone there? Okay, I'm not sure if everyone. I'm muted? Okay.
So, okay, well, if we have no further questions, we'll give it another minute or so. Oh, hi. Who do we have?
Hi. This is Terry Lynn with Orange County Child Welfare. 4 to 6 weeks. Can you hear me?
Terry Lynn. Yes, we can. Go ahead.
The ACL seems to indicate that during a CFT meeting, we are required to provide the family with a copy of the scored cans so that they can comment on it, but it doesn't sound like the San Francisco County is doing that. Can we just provide them an overview, or do we need to provide them copies of the scored cans?
My fingers are This is Lisa Witchy. Thanks for that question, Terry Lynn. And you're absolutely right. The ACL does indicate that a copy of the cans provided in the CFT. And the idea there is about transparent communication. Because the CANS is a phenometric tool, feedback that we received actually directly from youth, from CYC, they really felt strongly that the CANS was reflecting their story, and they wanted to see what was actually being documented on that CANS rating sheet. And so it was really their feedback that led us to have that written into the ACL guidance. So I know I heard from San Francisco that they're, it's still a work in progress. We're just asking for this. I do hear some background noise, so just want to remind folks to put yourself on mute if you're not talking. So it is an evolving process, but yes, giving the CANS rating sheet to during the CFT meeting is something that's in our all-county letter.
Okay, thank you, Lisa.
This is San Francisco too. I'll just add our staff, the child welfare staff, are not receiving the full CANS scores either at this point. So again,
is that Liz speaking?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you, Liz. And the child welfare staff as well. Okay. All right. Anyone else?
You're so welcome.
General questions or questions related to the presentation?
You got a lot of background noise.
Yeah, sounds like some folks mute. Okay, that's a little bit better. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Not in the inbox. Okay, well, folks, then we thank you for participating today on the CANS Biweekly Call, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Thank you for a good presentation.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to give a quick shout out again to Sacramento and San Francisco.
Woo!
Yes, I love it. Really appreciate hearing directly from you about how you are thinking about and approaching CANS implementation within the CFT process.
And thanks for sharing your forms and process.
Yes, absolutely. And hoping that other counties, child welfare and behavioral health, will reach out to us and volunteer to share at our next bi-weekly PA call. Yes. All right, thanks so much.
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas.
Okay.
Merry Christmas.
Yes. But I forget you, kid.